expression. To make matters worse, Howard's brother, Harold, and his two nephews were with us. The boys continued to ask questions. "Why are we here, Uncle George? What are they going to do?" It was embarrassing. And, of course, with all of our families present, it evolved into a hugely awkward scene. People were clearly staring. We all took the swabs, paid the cost, and agreed to meet at John's apartment the next week to receive the findings. John's place is the polar opposite of my beach house. It's everything modern, minimalist, and spotless, almost too beautiful, as if nobody lives there. We sat around, attempting to make light talk, but everyone was plainly on edge. Howard took his findings first, as he was the one who initiated everything. He'd been putting on a brave face, but we all knew he was extremely concerned about Alan. The joke Jeremy told had gone under his skin more than he cared to admit. He ripped open the packet, and I watched his expression change from one of fear to one of sheer relief. 99.99%, he exhaled, leaning back into his chair. Alan was his. He even smiled a little, raking his hands through his hair and muttering about how he was going to ground that youngster for a month for causing him such stress. The other findings were as expected, but we kept looking at John, waiting for him to say something. He was unusually quiet, and he was clearly drinking more than he normally did. He was still standing there, and when he finally said, "Jenna isn't mine?" he pushed the paper across the table, his hand shaking so violently that he nearly knocked over his beverage. What made things worse was how John just stood there, staring at nothing, as if he was trying to make sense of figures that couldn't be real. He kept whispering, 25.0%, like a broken record. In some ways, everything went downhill from there. Howard, in shock, knocked over a glass, which smashed on the floor. Jeremy, who had made the initial joke, appeared to want the earth to swallow him whole. Kyle simply closed his eyes, as if he were trying to block everything out. David looked like he was about to punch something. And me? I felt a surge of sickness, relief that my children were mine, and anguish for John. It was simply dreadful. The whole affair seemed strange. We sat for hours. The aftermath was a mess. John's wife, Alicia, went on the offense first. She stormed into John's office. I wasn't there, but I heard about it via John. She was yelling at him, calling him a liar, and making a big deal in front of his coworkers. It was very embarrassing for him. Then she attempted to persuade my wife, Maria, to her side. She came over to our house crying, attempting to create a story about John misinterpreting everything and how it was all a big mistake. However, Maria is quite sharp. She saw through Alicia's ruse quite immediately. Alicia often changed her story, contradicting herself. Maria later told me that she had gotten a horrible sense from her. Alicia's next tactic was to phone Kyle late at night. She was sobbing and virtually asking him to help her, claiming John was ruining her life. Kyle, being the nice soul he is, listened to her for a time, but made no promises. He informed me about it the next day, and we were all beginning to see how manipulative Alicia was. The reality emerged gradually at first. Alicia stated that her romance with John's brother, Stephen, was a one-time occurrence, a moment of weakness. John naturally did not believe her. He performed some research, possibly even engaged a private investigator. He wouldn't tell for certain. He discovered that the relationship was far longer and more involved than Alicia had previously admitted. The ultimate encounter occurred at their home. I was not present, but John informed us about it afterward. Alicia eventually admitted everything. The romance began before their wedding and had continued on and off for years. She also stated that Stephen had major financial issues, and she had been covertly providing him money, John's money. And things got worse. It was more than simply a casual flirtation. They had been meeting in hotels while John worked late, believing he was providing for his family. They even used John's automobile occasionally. They celebrated Jenna's birthday like a couple, snapping photos and pretending to be joyful. Days before John's family gathering, Stephen had been sending Jenna costly gifts that John could never afford, all purchased with money that had been essentially stolen from him. It appeared that he was attempting to buy Jenna's adoration. Is this the lowest blow of all? She would tell John she was working late when, in fact, she was out with Stephen. The financial side of things was completely out of control. These family loans that Alicia had been handing Stephen were massive. He'd squandered his money on gambling, lousy investments, and frivolous purchases like a nice watch and sports vehicle. He stated that these were business costs. Alicia had even forged John's signature on a few loan paperwork. They made bogus invoices and receipts to hide their tracks. John discovered emails between them in which they discussed leaving their husbands and running away together. Everything was laid out in black and white. When everything started spilling out, Alicia began hurriedly phoning everyone, attempting to mitigate the damage. She called me, my wife, and even contacted my parents. It was pathetic. The entire event culminated during Jenna's birthday celebration. It was a spectacular event at a nice restaurant. Everyone was pretending to be joyful. Stephen was present, acting smug and touchy-feely with Alicia. It made John obviously angry. He kept clenching and unclenching his hands while standing near the exit, as if waiting for Stephen to flee. Then, during the toasts, Stephen mustered the courage to stand up and thank John for being such a wonderful brother and provider. He understood it was all a deception. He handed Jenna a very expensive gift, most likely purchased using John's money. He also began bragging to some of the other guests about his own financial triumphs, making John look awful by contrast. That was the breaking moment. John stepped up, took the DNA test results from his pocket, and displayed them for everybody to see. He stated unequivocally, 25.0% probability. He then proceeded to deliver this brief, furious speech, detailing everything, Alicia and Stephen's affair, the falsehoods, and the stolen money. He even showed everyone printed out images of their emails and photos from when they were planning their future together. He made certain that everyone knew about the watch, the car, the extravagant parties, and the fictitious business trip to a tropical island. John's mother-in-law gasped and fainted. His father-in-law attempted to punch John, but fortunately, some other guests pulled him back. Stephen attempted to sneak out the back, but John's father, who, like David, is an ex-military, saw him and knocked him down. It was not pretty. Some individuals attempted to assist, while others simply stood there, mouths agape, watching the entire incident happen. The police were summoned, but they did not take any action. They said it was a domestic disagreement. I later learned that someone had recorded the entire thing on their phone and posted it online. It was not any of us. The consequences were quick and terrible. John's dad was outraged. He refused to speak with Stephen and proceeded to Stephen's flat, where his wife also lived. He grabbed all of Stephen's stuff and put them outside the apartment owned by Stephen and John's father. He subsequently wrote a note to the entire family, stating that he no longer regarded Stephen as son. He did, however, talk with John. He informed him he was disappointed with how things turned out, but he still loved him. Stephen's wife, Kelly, had a different narrative. She did more than just yell, she took action. She promptly filed for divorce and locked all of their joint accounts, barring Stephen from receiving any additional funds. She retained a lawyer and did not stop there. She went to John's house, confronted Alicia, yelled at her, and even smacked her in the face while pulling large chunks of her hair off. I do not condone violence, but I cannot say I blamed her. Kelly eventually began treatment to try to overcome the trauma. John, on the other hand, withdrew. He went to one of his beach houses, not mine, but it wasn't as comfortable for him as it had been previously. It seemed like a prison. He would not answer the phone. He would not see anyone. He ordered meals online and stared at the ocean for hours. He later informed me that he had dreams about the DNA test and the overall affair. He really considered selling the property and committing suicide somewhere in a distant wilderness, but he couldn't bring himself to do so, too many memories. He began drinking extensively to numb the ache. He stopped shaving and changing his clothes. He simply gave up. Meanwhile, Alicia and Stephen were residing at John's house. Apparently, Stephen moved in after getting booted out of his residence. They acted as if nothing had happened. They were seen going on shopping sprees, purchasing pricey clothing and accessories. They were even plotting their escape, working out how to get away from the disaster they had created. It was horrible. They ordered pricey takeout every night while John struggled to pay his debts. They had noisy parties, which bothered the neighbors. Alicia even began remodeling Jenna's room despite knowing she might have to leave at any time. And Stephen, the jackass, began parking his automobiles in John's driveway. John started experiencing panic attacks. Just seeing Alicia and Stephen together triggered them. He stopped caring for himself. He wasn't showering or eating properly. One day, he accidentally smashed a framed photo of Jenna. He wounded his palm badly on the broken glass, but he didn't appear to notice. That's when we, his pals, realized we needed to act. We held a meeting at my residence. Howard brought all of the bank statements and, with John's assistance, the fake documents. He didn't simply show us the documents, he hurled them on the table, scattering them around. He was furious. Jeremy claimed he wanted to bash Stephen up. David, given his military background, even joked about making them disappear. I believe he was joking anyway. Kyle, who is usually so cool and controlled, was visibly angry. We spent hours discussing, fighting, and attempting to figure out what to do. We argued the legality and morality of it all. Howard completed some research, including landlord-tenant legislation and eviction procedures.